Hello and welcome into another episode of Rolling with My Special Friends. Today we got a wonderful guest that's coming on. Everybody out there in the social media world is familiar with Wheelchair Dad. Well, we bringing on his better half to be able to tell the rest of the story, to get to know the ins and outs of how they go about doing what they do with these 6 children and with Wheelchair Dad, be able to get around and do all the special things he does. We want to kind of see the inspiration or the backbone behind this whole thing and bring her in and his wife and be able to talk to her. How are you doing today?
Doing good.
Doing good.
Busy.
Well, there you go. I think it's always busy with 6 children, isn't it?
Yep, it's chaos.
Yeah, I want to make sure I got it right. It's Andrea, right?
Yes.
Okay, and we have a degree. Tell everybody so they know, what do you have a degree in?
So my degree is in marriage, family, and human development, and I have a minor in gerontology.
Okay. So that also lets our audience know out there a little bit that you kind of got a little bit of the pieces of the puzzle of holding something together that has 6 kids. You kind of know how to do it, but it's also at the same thing, you still got to get in there and do that everyday activity, don't you?
Yeah, I think that's kind of a learned street smart thing more than any books can teach you.
All right. So let's get this thing kicked off just right. Tell us a little bit about life about Andrea before Dan. What were you like? What did you enjoy? What'd you have fun doing?
So I grew up as a Air Force brat. So I traveled all over the world. I loved to travel. I actually went to high school in Germany and middle school in Japan, and I played volleyball in Germany. That was my favorite thing to do. So when I left Germany after high school, I came to BYU and graduated there. I met my first husband. We got married. We adopted my oldest son together, and then we ended up divorced. And then I met my second husband, and we had my second son together. So it's the end of my second husband's story where Dan and I met. I don't know if you want me to go into that now or.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, yeah, people would love to hear the story, the connection between you and Dan, because I think it's amazing, what you guys are doing and what you've overcome. It's taxing enough to go through one divorce, but to be able to come through a second one, I almost think that, things, a former guest we had on, we just talked about it, that you don't have a testimony without a test. So you've been tested in several ways in your life. And now here you are of reaping the benefits of going through those tests.
Yes. So I had never imagined that my second marriage was going to end like it did, but things were a little bit rocky in my marriage. We had a great love for each other, but things were struggling. We were in therapy and things were struggling. But on August 6, 2013, my ex-husband was in a really bad motorcycle accident. He was riding a bullet bike at over 100 miles an hour, and not sure exactly what happened. There were no other vehicles involved, but he did crash and wasn't wearing a helmet, was thrown off his bike and kind of landed head first. And so the paramedics all said they didn't think he would make it to the hospital even, but somehow he survived. Worst phone call of my life to get that phone call that had happened. And actually they wouldn't tell me what happened. They just kind of told me he had been in an accident and I needed to get there. They wouldn't tell me if he was alive or dead or if I was going to see him alive again or anything. They just said, come. So I got to the hospital and I was holding my then almost 1.5-year-old son while the doctor told me that my husband probably wasn't going to make it. Really, really hard situation. So when I went in and saw him, he was completely unconscious, was bleeding from ears, nose, eyes, like had a really, really messed up brain. And so he was in a coma for about 2.5 months. And I sat by his side every day, and it was a hard thing to go through as a mom, because I had to make the choice on who needed me more. My little babies, I had a 1.5-year-old and a 6-year-old at the time. And then my husband in a hospital in a coma that didn't have anyone else to be sitting by his side and making sure the doctors were doing what they needed to do for him. So when he came out of his coma enough to engage in therapy, they were able to teach him to walk again, teach him to think again, teach him to talk again and to eat. And his brain was all jumbled up, and he actually didn't remember anything from the time that we were married. So he was calling me his ex-wife's name, and just kind of bits and pieces would come here and there. But most of his memory from the 4.5 years that we were married prior to that were gone. And so he went through physical therapy, and eventually he came home and didn't believe that it was our house. He thought I was playing a joke on him, and he didn't recognize anything. I toured him around the house and showed him pictures and showed him his clothes in the closet, and he thought I was playing a big, massive prank on him by taking all of his stuff out of his real house and putting it somewhere else. But I then became a full-time caregiver of a 6-year-old, a 1.5-year-old, and my husband, who, for all intents and purposes, he was here physically, but he was not here. He was gone. His traumatic brain injury completely changed him. The sparkle in his eye was gone, and he no longer engaged with the kids or me, and just not the same person that I married. And I just became a full-time caregiver for him, having like all the things, bathroom accidents, and just having to wake him up and tell him to shower, tell him to eat, and his every move. And I have multiple sclerosis, and that was something that was weighing on me physically, but it also got to the point where it was really weighing on my kids. My older son that would go back and forth to his dad's house didn't want to come back to my house anymore because he said his stepdad didn't love him anymore. And it was just like a really, really heart-wrenching place to be. I was 31 or turned 32 years old. And ultimately I had to make the decision on whether I allowed myself to get lost in that, and ultimately my kids would be losing their mom too. Decided that Jeff would be in a good place with or without me. And so I wanted to get myself and my kids in a healthier place where we could thrive and not be in that situation, and have someone else that was more physically able to take care of him. So ultimately I made that decision, and it was, I think everyone out there could imagine that was like the hardest decision I'll probably ever have to make.
Oh, yeah.
And it wasn't done lightly. It was done with a lot of prayer and a lot of heartache and a lot of tears. So that happened August 6, 2013. Well, on the other side, a couple hours away in Utah, Dan's accident happened on August 7th, 2013. And they were both, my ex-husband and Dan were both kind of in the same rehab facility, and we had seen each other in passing. And when I was taking my ex-husband to therapy for his brain, Dan was there for physical therapy after his accident that caused him to be paralyzed. So we actually met there, just kind of past glances for a while. And then we became friends and talked about our kids and our lives and how we had both kind of hit rock bottom. And at that point, I was just kind of going through the motions, taking my husband to therapy, but had, like I said before, we were having some struggles prior to that. And I had come upon some information that made me realize that even prior to his accident, he wasn't being fully faithful to me. And it just kind of made it impossible for me to carry on with him. So hard story to tell, hard because I know there's lots of judgments that might come my way, but Dan and I became friends, and actually I genuinely and sincerely feel like God put us in the same place at the same time when we both needed each other desperately. We both were at rock bottom, and we gave each other a light and a sense of purpose. And so actually the first kind of words that I said to him, that you asked me on text how, his his pickup line or whatever. But it actually, I saw him at Taco Bell. I went there to grab some lunch, and I saw him getting out of his car. He had a Cadillac at the time, and he was unloading his wheelchair and had driven himself there. And this was just a couple months after his accident. And he was meeting his grandfather there for lunch. And I actually was just in the right time at the right place to hold the door open for him. And as he passed through the door, I just said, "Man, you're a stud." Because I could just feel that, like, he was just happy and positive and doing what he had to do. And like, I just couldn't believe that close to his injury, that he was already like just doing it and doing it with a smile on his face. And so I said that to him and ended up joining his grandpa and him for lunch a little bit. And then we just became good friends from there. And so after I had separated and divorced from my husband and got him situated in a situation where he was having 24/7 care from professionals, then eventually Dan and I took it a step further, and the rest is history.
Well, and that's what I was kind of like the rest of the world out there, since we follow, Wheelchair Dad and his whole social media thing going on, and everybody wants to know the backstory. And I always thought there might have been some cool pickup line, where he ran over your foot and you fell in love and all that kind of stuff. But it sounds like it went the other way. You may have been enticed yourself, that you saw him come in and thought you just needed to try that out.
Yeah, I think all the therapists at the place were getting a little curious about what was going on, because they would see us kind of passing glances back and forth, like, now what are they doing? But
it's hard to hide those feelings, and you can't really disguise them.
Yeah.
So now tell me, when we get into this world that you and Wheelchair Dad have got going with 6 kids, how, for people out there listening, obviously everybody knows Wheelchair Dad and knows the cheers involved and know you're there. I mean, that'd be tough if it was 2 regular everyday parents. How do you deal with 6 kids?
Just 1 minute at a time. Sometimes it's exciting and it's fun and it's hard. So when we got married, we had 4. I had 2 boys. He had 2 girls. They were the same ages. So we had, at the time we got married, they were, 8 and 7. Mine turned 8 a few months later, and then 3 and 2. Mine turned 3 a few months later. So for all intents and purposes, we had 2 8-year-olds and 2 3-year-olds when we got married. So all of a sudden we had 2 little toddler sets of twins, a toddler set of twins and an 8-year-old set of twins. And it was fun. The younger ones have always been kind of hit and miss. They've been friends a small percentage of the time, but more kind of in competition with each other, because they were both our babies. And the first few years were a little bit rough, because I had my baby and Dan had his baby little girl, and the 2 of them would go at it. And then Dan and I would start fighting like 2nd graders, because no, she did it. No, he did it. No, she started it. It's her fault. And it's not easy seeing someone else discipline your baby. So, when he would kind of snap at my son for whatever he did to start it, and I'd be like, no, it wasn't him, it was her. And, she's antagonizing him or whatever. So it's taken a few years to kind of get that under control, where we could be adults and step back as parents and not be like so protective over our babies. But so then we decided to have another one. That was something that was definitely a prompting from a loving God that knew that we could use some more joy in our lives. And it was not an easy process. It was a lot of money. And for me, it was very, very taxing, not just physically, but emotionally, because when you do in vitro fertilization, they pump you full of all kinds of hormones, and my emotions were just off the wall.
Now, so to catch you right there in the middle of that statement, tell people that out there may not be understanding in vitro fertilization. Tell us about the process a little bit.
So it involves like hundreds of needles. You do lots of shots to kind of get your body to the point where you can extract eggs from the woman, and then you get the sperm from the man, and then outside of your body, they put those together to create an embryo. And then they pump you full of hormones to get your body ready to take that embryo. And then they put the embryo in and hope that it burrows into the uterus. But it's quite the process. It's very, like I said, emotionally and physically taxing. We did it once and got pregnant, and we're just through the roof excited. And then at about 8 weeks, we had a miscarriage, which was just devastating after going through that whole process, and not to mention paying, $15,000-$20,000, and then just to have it end in that. But we knew right away that we were supposed to keep trying, and we did, and ended up getting pregnant with twins. And then Maisie survived through all of it, and the twin kind of stopped thriving at about 7-8 weeks. But then our little miracle Maisie showed up, and she has just been the joy of our lives. And to our surprise, not too long after that, we felt like we needed to try again and have another one, which was definitely not in the books that we were going to try and do that. But Maisie, or Marley, our second little in vitro baby, man, she is. Dan and I were talking the other day, and Dan just says, there is not a second of her life that I do not enjoy. Like, she is just incredible, and we feel so blessed to have the two of them. They've been so good for our family, and like as parents, it is so beautiful to watch our older kids love on their baby sisters. Like, you can't replace like what that's teaching them to have, to see my 15-year-old son holding his baby sister and just cuddling her and loving her. Like, you can't teach that kind of love to a kid. That's just something they, when they experience that, it's just a beautiful thing.
Well, now to put this in perspective for other people that are listening as well, they know about Dan and they know about the chair and all that stuff. How the new children coming into the marriage that had never been around a chair, and now obviously children that are born into a dad with a chair, what do you see out there? How do those children respond to the chair?
They are our older kids that have been here, since before we got married. They have never seemed to bat an eye about it. I don't know. It doesn't seem to be anything that they even pay attention to. And kind of the same with me. I think I don't know if it's because Dan just has such a presence about him that it like overpowers the fact that he's in a wheelchair. I don't know what it is, but like, you just don't even notice it most of the time. They do have, like, the kids help load his chair in and out of the car, and they're very aware about opening doors for him, and just making sure that they're helping where they can. But other than that, there've been a few times where you realize that they kind of think about it. So I think my son Uriah was about 3 or 4, and we were pulling up to this little kind of hole in the wall restaurant, and from the side that we parked, you could see that there was just like this huge staircase leading up to like a top floor entrance. And my son Uriah just had like this heart sinking, like, we can't go here. How's dad going to get in there? Dad's not going to be able to get in there, So I think it's on their minds, and they're very aware of it. But it's not something, I don't know. It's not something they talk about or that affects their daily lives in a negative way at all. And then as far as our babies go, of course, they don't know anything different. And they just, if you've seen some of our videos, they ride on his lap, and Dan can be riding a wheelie down the steepest of steep hills. And they seriously don't even like change their face. Now, I've been on Dan's lap when he decides to go into a wheelie and it is terrifying. because I'm not in control, and all of a sudden it feels like you're having your world pulled out from under you. But the babies, I've posted a few videos of him doing stuff like that with them on their lap. And if you watch their face, they don't even act like anything's happening. They just 100% trust in him. And, they don't see the wheelchair. They just see their daddy, and they see that he's their hero, and they're obsessed with him. They both adore him. He could leave and go out to the garage for 10 minutes and come back in, and they're like, Daddy, like act like they haven't seen him in years. So yeah, to them, and they both kind of have their way that they sink down into his lap when they're riding. Little Marley right now, she like wedges her one leg in between his legs and just kind of like sinks into it, and she's just so comfortable. And if she's ready to lounge back, she just like nudges against his chest and lays down. Like she owns him. She owns his lap.
I think that is really cool, because you're raising a group of kids that are going to be more open as they get older, and being around other people with disabilities or special needs, however you want to say it, that are open, to any kind of thing. They're going to be open to loving more people because of, not because of they got a chair, but just loving them because of the person.
Yeah. And we actually participate in a lot of activities in the community that are activities for people with disabilities. And so we're around a lot of other people who have both mental and physical disabilities. And yeah, kids just breeze past it. They don't, you see kids in the grocery store or whatever, stopping and staring and pointing, and just, they've never been around someone with a disability. But yeah, our kids are like, it's second nature to them. They don't even think twice.
Right. So tell us now, since we got all the kids and Dan and social media world going on, what does it feel like on the backside of this, seeing Dan get all the attention out there in the social media world? Are you a proud wife?
Yeah, I think it's evident in the videos I create that I'm a pretty proud wife. Sometimes I'm wondering if it's too much, but I'm like, I'm not gonna hide how proud I am of him. He's a stellar person. He's a stellar human. He's an amazing, thoughtful, caring husband and an amazing dad. And yeah, I joke all the time saying that I do all the work and he gets all the glory. We get thousands of comments every day just telling him how incredible he is, which he is. But yeah, it's a full-time job for me to take the footage and then edit the footage and get it out there. And so I always tease him, telling him I do all the work and he gets all the good benefits of it. But it's been fun. It's been fun to see it grow, and it's been so rewarding to see how it's touching people's lives. It's kind of really, really overwhelming, but in a good way, to hear what people say. I mean, we get people saying all the time that they were having a hard time pulling themselves out of bed and watched our video, and just it gave them the inspiration they needed to get up and be a mom or be a dad. And had one guy say that with his mental health struggles that he hadn't had a job in several years and hadn't even tried to apply for a job in 3 years. And after watching our videos, he went out and applied for 3 jobs. And like, it's just overwhelming to hear how people's lives are changing. And so it kind of, I put a lot of thought and prayer into it to make sure that our videos get to who they need to be seen by. And so it's really cool to see the effects of it.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, like I've told on Dan's podcast before, it's amazing of the people that he's touching out there doing what he's doing. And then it's also, amazing to see the person, and now finally for the rest of the world to see you and see what's going on in the background of putting these videos together to be inspiring. Because, it's what I've said before, you can be a great athlete, but without that coach behind you kind of pushing you, nobody ever gets to know how great you are.
Yeah. Yeah. I was actually really nervous to do this podcast because I'm hardly ever even in the videos. I joke with my kids, like when we're on our camping trips, I hand them my phone and I'm like, get some video footage of me, but they're not very good videographers. So it doesn't very often make it in, but it's kind of nerve wracking to be on the other side of the camera for a minute.
So what's the future plans of Wheelchair Dad? You got any social media things coming up?
I don't know. We're just keep pushing it. We're just hoping to keep growing and keep getting out there. And we're going to be starting a Patreon account here soon, and kind of hoping to see if we can benefit financially a little bit from all, since it is a full-time job. And it's full-time for me to make and edit the videos, and then it's full-time for Dan to be kind of stay-at-home dad. We have to really work as a team. I take the kids while he's working on some of the projects, and I'm holding baby to do video and trying to make sure everybody's fed and taken care of. And when I'm working on the videos, he's managing the rest of the family. And so we're learning how to kind of juggle it all as it gets bigger, and as we got to keep putting content out there for people to enjoy. And yeah, so the next few steps are we're hoping to get some like brand collaborations and do some stuff so that we can benefit financially from it as well.
Well, it's definitely growing. I mean, there's a lot of people out there watching, and a lot of people asking questions, and just amazing to me to see the following of, like you said, of the people that are inspired by him every day, and as well as now they're going to be inspired by you because they know what the glue is to that box that's out there. Dan may be that box, but everybody knows that there's stuff that's got to hold that box together. And it's pretty cool to see the person finally in real life that's putting together these videos and things and just enjoying, making his ride a little smoother, if that makes sense.
Thank you. He makes my life a lot smoother too. It's incredible. I've said on some of our videos, like a lot of times as a wife of someone who uses a wheelchair, I'll get comments about, you're such a good person for taking care of him or whatever. I'm like, I don't take care of him. No. Like, he takes care of me. He picks up the slack when I'm down. And like I said, I have MS. And so there's a lot of times when physically I'm feeling very, I don't look like I have a disability. I'm not using a wheelchair or anything, but there are a lot of times when my MS really knocks me down, and he's very good at letting me rest when I need to, and really picking up the slack. I know everyone out there watching this has probably seen some of the videos of him with the babies at night. Those are my favorite videos. That's when I'm laying in bed and he's letting me rest, and I'll pop in on the nanny cam and see him it's just adorable. If you've seen him, it's adorable.
Oh yeah.
It's just fun to catch him in the moments. He is an amazing person for creating those moments. It's not ever like, hey, go with the babies and be really cute with them. It's like he's just doing that and I'm capturing it. So
no, there's no question. You can see the love in the man when he's out there holding those babies. He's like a whole different person.
Yeah.
So tell us, in the social media world, for everybody out there that's listening and watching that may not be familiar with Wheelchair Dad and the footage that you have going, what are all the different places that they can reach out there and be able to see you in the social media world?
Yeah. So the easiest, we just secured the website, thewheelchairdad.com. So if you go there, that's kind of a landing page. It has our links to our TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, as well as some of our Amazon favorites. You can shop on Amazon through those links, and a couple other products that we love that are helpful for parents that use wheelchairs. So thewheelchairdad.com. That's the best place to go. Okay.
And now, and I think I may have asked Dan this last time he and I had talked, but are there any merch in the future as far as t-shirts, hats, things like that?
We actually just released some merch. We have one line, and it's the kind of the catchphrase that I use in a lot of videos that says "punch today in the face." I feel like that kind of describes what Dan does every day. He just kind of takes the bull by the horns and just gets up and knocks it out. And so, yeah, we do have some merch. You can link to that through our YouTube store, or you can go to the Wheelchair Dad merch. You can see that we've got t-shirts, like coffee mugs, stickers, some yoga pants that are super cute.
Now I'm thinking the whole world's going to want to see Dan in yoga pants, so you might have to pull that one off.
Yeah, that might not be him wearing those, but I'll be sporting those around.
Oh, okay. I got you. All right. That added a new twist to a video if you had him in some yoga pants.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe we'll have to make a little advertisement with it.
So now that we got all that information and people know where to reach out there and touch him at and be able to get the mercs and everything else, tell us, because you've been on some of our or listened to some of our podcasts before. Tell us a funny story about Andrea. Is there something between you and Wheelchair Dad that you've, like you said, you've been scared to ride in his lap? Have you fell out of the chair or he run over you, or is there some funny story to tell us about you?
Oh man. So he has a smart drive. For those of you that don't know what that is, it's like a motorized wheel that he can attach to the back of his wheelchair. And then he wears a little watch thing. And when he taps the watch twice on his wheel or on his lap, the motor starts, and it's kind of an assist push for his wheelchair. Well, we were at the movies one day, and of course we were in the wheelchair section. And so we had lots of space in front of us and kind of the walking aisle where people walk, and then the stadium seating below us. So the backs of people's chairs. So he had gotten into a chair and I was in a chair and I had my legs up on his lap and we were getting cozy, ready for the movie. And in the middle of the movie, I think it was something funny that happened or something. And he kind of like hit his lap or something, and his wheelchair, like the motor started. So the wheelchair just went cruising across the theater and slammed into the back of people's seats, like way far away from us. So they like turned around like, what in the heck just happened? So yeah, we've got kind of lots of funny stories with that motor igniting when it's not supposed to be going. So yeah, it just kind of has a mind of its own sometimes, which is scary, but yeah. So
Well, and that's the lighter side that people love to hear, to be able to know that there are funny times that even though dealing with 6 kids and a wheelchair and everything else, there are times in life you just got to laugh. You can't get mad at it.
yeah, it's kind of one of those things. Yeah, when you get in the times where you feel like other things are going wrong, sometimes you just got to be like, all right, what's next?
Everybody out there too, knows our signature series question by now after years of doing this podcast. And we want to know and be able to hear your story. If everything was over for you tomorrow and we were able to hear and read the book of Andrea, what would you hope people read in that book?
We've been watching the series This Is Us, and we're kind of at the end of it where the mom's at the end of her life and her kids are taking care of her. And we watched that last night, and it got me thinking, like, I just want my kids mostly to remember that I was a woman of faith and a woman that just gave my all through all the trials. It's been kind of a rough road the last, I don't know, 9 or 10 years. And I try my best. Dan and I both try our best to always include our kids in our spiritual experiences or in our moments where we feel prompted to do things, or when we see God's miracles in our lives, we try and tell our kids about it and just include them in that and let them know of our faith and love for our Heavenly Father. And if I were to die today or tomorrow, I would want my kids to remember me as that, just a woman of faith that gave my best and just really relied on God for all the direction in my life. And I hope that they can learn that lesson too, because no matter what comes your way, if you're confident that God's in control, then you can kind of pray your way through it and feel that guidance. So
I love to hear it said that way, because that's exactly the way I believe. I think that your actions, the things that you do speak a whole lot louder than your words. And it's very evident to me and the rest of the world that are watching, the episodes of Wheelchair Dad and the things he's doing, that you can see the love in those kids for their daddy, and you can see it the other way around for you two loving those kids. And to me, nobody ever has to say a word. I can see that love from that mama.
Thank you.
I want to thank you two guys for being part of our show and coming on and experiencing, let us experience some of your life. I know it's an everyday thing and a lot of hours people don't get to see, like you said, those little moments of Dan holding those babies in the dark and taking care of them. And it's just an inspiring thing to see you guys do what you do, for you to have come through what you've come through, same way with him for his injury, for you two to link up and make a super team, I call it, then it's, it's just an amazing thing to be able to watch. I think we talked about it at the beginning of this podcast. You just really don't have a testimony until you've had a test. And I think you two have been tested about every way you can. And now the teacher's giving out grades and you two are making high marks.
Oh, thank you. We appreciate it. We appreciate you having us on. It's been fun.
Well, we thank you. And we'll have to circle this thing back around. The next time we do it, I want to get both of you on together and you kind of update us, down the road of how this Wheelchair Dad's doing and how it's monetizing and everybody's getting on board. Cause I can just see the train, growing every day of Wheelchair Dad's audience is getting bigger and bigger. And I'm just excited to see where it's going to go.
Yeah, we are too. Thank you. We'd love to do that. That'd be fun.
Well, you are welcome on here anytime. Well, everybody out there listening, go make sure to like and subscribe us. Go out there and check out Wheelchair Dad and like and subscribe him, in the YouTube and all their other social media platforms out there to follow up on their story and contact them and let them know you're out there watching and being inspired by what they're doing. So until next time, just check us out on all your favorite podcasting place, Spotify, Amazon, Apple Music, anywhere you want to go to listen to podcasts, we're there. So just go in there and check us out.